Mixing a New Palate, and we'll be talking about andragogy and pedagogy in information literacy instruction. My name is Catherine Baldwin, and I'm an instruction services librarian at the Bradford campus of the University of Pittsburgh. So today I would like to distinguish between andragogy and pedagogy and to offer an instructional approach blending both to best fit a developing traditional student population. So when we plan for instruction, library-related instruction that is, for university students, we always ponder this question: who are they? The answer, of course, is very complex, and thinking critically will help us provide the most beneficial instruction possible. Today's student population is diverse across many variables: their backgrounds, culture, identity, race, technological savvy and access, their abilities and challenges, family situations and home environments, languages spoken, affluence, age, ethnicity, and even nationality. In addition, the COVID-19 pandemic and increased online instruction have necessitated more diverse learning environments with a common application of online and hybrid courses. Statistics illustrate that the United States population is diversifying through both population growth and immigration, and our campuses reflect these changes. With a diverse student population, librarians are challenged to reach students where they are, personally, academically, technologically, culturally, and regarding information literacy. When addressing students, a very basic factor is their age, which seems to be obvious, but their age and development do hold implications for instruction. Essentially, adolescents are advanced children, and they experience a great deal of physical and cognitive development during their first years in higher education. Therefore, academic librarians must be aware of those differences between adolescents and young adults in matters of physical, cognitive, and psychological maturity. This is especially critical as students enter college as adolescents, but they graduate as young adults. Even so, teaching flexibility is key when addressing traditional students, especially as their development varies. Therefore, teaching information literacy requires librarians to utilize techniques addressing both adolescents and young adults by mixing a new educational palette to accommodate everyone. Just as painters mix shades of color, faculty librarians mix teaching methods. Blending and reblending instruction is worthwhile, as this enables us to provide high-impact learning experiences to better engage our students. Providing efficient and effective information literacy instruction is especially necessary for faculty librarians who must often teach a great deal of information within a very limited time frame, as during one-shot instruction sessions. We must also recognize that each class holds unique dynamics and challenges, so we may need to adjust the degree of independence within an activity to meet the maturity of the class, for example. Selecting techniques for both adolescents and young adults provides the flexibility we require. According to the United Kingdom's Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, or CILIP, the revised definition of, quote, information literacy is the ability to think critically and make balanced judgments about any information we find and use. It empowers us as citizens to develop informed views and to engage fully with society, unquote. It is timely to consider this perspective on information literacy as it addresses benefits for the greater community. However, this outlook also challenges the pragmatism required of librarians designing one-shot instruction sessions. However, even singular skills merge into those abilities for lifelong learning goals. Of course, many other charters exist on information literacy. The framework of the ACRL in the United States, the tenets of IFLA, or the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, and UNESCO's Information for All program. For younger student populations in the States, the Big Six and Standards for the 21st Century Learner of the American Association of School Librarians offer guidelines as well. While some focus on actions taken, interactions with, and mindsets regarding information, all guidelines deal with searching for, thinking about, accessing, and applying information with the end goal of improved literacy and critical thinking skills. Historically, education has been split into two development-related categories, pedagogy and andragogy. This separation was delineated within a German text written by Alexander Kopp in 1833, when the need arose to differentiate between children's education and adult education. Simply put, and now commonly accepted, andragogy implies the education of adults, while pedagogy denotes the education of children. Pedagogy begins when we are very young and extends longer than you might consider a person to be childlike, as we technically remain children until our brains and bodies fully develop by around age 25. Traditional college students fall into this category. However, they may earn undergraduate degrees prior to reaching the benchmarks of true adulthood. Within the United States, these students may vote, marry, join the military, adopt legal independence, be arrested and sentenced within the legal system, obtain their driver's license, and graduate from college, all before they have reached physical and cognitive adulthood. As educators, we must honor students' developmental levels to be effective. Although adolescent students may be slacking and unorganized, they are also experiencing physical, cognitive, and hormonal changes. An example of such an indicator of this development is the issue of sleep. While requiring 10 hours of sleep per night, students' natural ability to fall asleep shifts toward the late evening. So offering early morning instruction to freshmen may be especially challenging and ineffective. Sleep deprivation also stresses their immunity, their mood regulation, their brain development, and their ability to learn. Interestingly, the study of this confluence of cognitive development plus educational theory has affected a new discipline known as educational neuroscience. Cognitive neuroscience illustrates that maturity occurs when the brain's frontal cortex and the amygdala have fully developed. At the front of the brain, the frontal cortex is large and complex, controlling several executive functions. Executive functions include planning and self-control behaviors associated with maturity. The frontal cortex is also responsible for decision-making and predicting long-term consequences. Unfortunately, the frontal cortex is also most vulnerable to injury due to its location, and injuries to it may affect one's planning, their self-control, their working memory, and self-suppression of inappropriate behaviors. The amygdala is also in rapid development during adolescence, and it is deeply seated within the brain. This region regulates mood and emotional stability. The risks taken, the consistency and quality of moods, and the degree of organization are related to maturation of a student's amygdala in conjunction with their personal life experiences, of course. From a librarian's perspective, this explains why young adult literature is rife with drama as it reflects the experiences, lives, emotions, and disorganization of adolescents. If we assess the traits of young learners, we see that adolescents are more extrinsically motivated than their elder classmates. Therefore, they benefit from firm due dates and clarified assignments with consequences and benefits. Accustomed to the lighter workload of high school, adolescent students may feel impatient with lengthy readings and frustrated with complex assignments. They may also resist spending time on research, avoiding scholarly databases and preferring Google for quick bites of information, regardless of their suitability. Disorganization also affects immature students, as demonstrated through poor physical and time management, lost worksheets, forgotten assignments, missed instruction in the library, and beginning research papers hours before they are due. Besides immaturity, less life experience and limited perspective also affect younger students. They often feel overwhelmed by rigorous requirements, and they disregard the value of information literacy sessions. Young students overestimate what they may accomplish within a block of time, and they fail to understand the benefits of general education courses, life skill seminars, and research sessions, failing to give these adequate attention. Student maturity is often realized finally by seniors who suddenly understand the benefits of learning from librarians when completing capstone courses and senior projects involving research. As more mature students, they appreciate information literacy lessons and resources which they had reluctantly received in years past. Thankfully, students' perspectives, skill sets, and their cognitive development often culminate in such a eureka moment. In their youth, students build layers of general knowledge through subject-focused, teacher-supported strategies. As teens mature, they adhere new information to these metaphorical layers, much like adding paint to a prepared canvas. For adolescents, goals and educational decisions are primarily chosen by their educators, and their student choices are limited. These efforts, however, supplement students' perspective, foresight, and organization as they mature. The content offered through pedagogy tends to be more general the younger the student. As they mature, students are ready for greater detail and sophistication within subject areas. Pedagogy also tends to be quite structured, with the educator designing lessons and coordinating curricula, assigning work with explicit directives and avoiding ambiguity. These external strategies provided by the teacher assist students in organizing their own thinking and study skills. Also, pedagogical curricula are often organized, taught, and learned by subject rather than through a more cohesive integrated approach. However, progressive educators do recognize the benefits of teaching across curricular areas when possible, just as faculty and librarians value a liberal arts education and the perspective it gives on information. Young university students lack this background experience and perspective due to their age. So pedagogy requires detailed explanation and a more prescriptive didactic instruction to fill the gaps. According to Conaway and Zorn-Arnold, experience exists within two realms, the physical and the psychological. Teachers of young students provide physical experience through hands-on activities and psychological experience through storytelling and explanation. Librarians can also apply these methods to support their students. Even though they are maturing, traditional students aged 18 to 22 years still benefit from scaffolded, supported learning frameworks. To support students, librarians should provide clear structure to encourage autonomy and reduce confusion. Educators also hold more responsibility within the teacher-student relationship. Clear expectations and pathways to resources will definitely benefit younger students. Lessons and assignments of smaller scope will hold students' attention and prevent frustration. Allowing students to choose topics of personal interest will arouse their curiosity to explore their majors more fully. Incorporating cell phones and laptops meets students where they are, while developing positive associations with research and information skills. Employing technology and personal choice are also in keeping with universal design for learning techniques. While faculty and students alike assume that digital natives are savvy with technology, the Dunning-Kruger effect contradicts this. As adolescents utilize technology in their daily lives, they feel more comfortable with it than without it. However, adolescent students also require the guidance in information literacy skills, including choosing reliable sources, critically assessing social media and news, understanding provenance and intent, and accessing and searching databases and online public access catalogs or OPACs. Adolescent students also struggle to maintain their attention in comparison with more mature students. This is especially true if a lesson includes several steps and processes, or if a librarian teaches a great volume of information within one session. To increase students' time on task, librarians may offer written outlines for note-taking, give examples of citation, and list pathways on worksheets and handouts. Providing scaffolding or support will also enable students to work more independently and efficiently. These simple additions will support adolescents' focus during information literacy sessions. We can adapt pedagogical techniques for information literacy instruction. Provide organization through visually clear, well-designed worksheets. Librarians can also provide lists, steps within processes, pathways for reaching endpoints, and tips for research. As we advocate for use of more OER or open educational resources, we must also advocate for printing services for those students requiring paper texts. This is especially true for readings longer than 7 pages and for learning complex material. Showing students how to interact with their texts with digital or other annotation, highlighting, and note-taking will also bolster their learning. This variety of formats may support younger students who already have difficulty maintaining their attention and who also feel discouraged with lengthy readings. Because younger students rely on faculty to a great degree, actively embed yourself in the activity and monitor student progress, helping as needed. Less mature students are more likely to be disruptive and fall off task, yet they will often avoid asking for help even when they need it. Offer brief assignments with small focal points. Break lessons into mini activities with very clear purposes, label sections by topic, and restate the purpose of what you are working on and why. To allow personal choice and opinion, allow students to choose their topics, databases, journals, books, etc., to encourage their personal buy-in and curiosity. This will make their experience more meaningful and relevant. It will aid their attention, retention, and their learning. Young students also often assume that they are comfortable with technology, so they will ignore librarians during instruction, assuming that they can figure out research by themselves, but that is seldom the case. Be prepared for some resistance, some working ahead, and some inattention by less mature adolescent students. Encourage them by working with them one-on-one. Now let's examine the other end of the educational spectrum, andragogy. Traditional college students enter university as adolescents, but they leave as young adults. However, maturity does vary for each person, so faculty librarians must provide suitable instruction. In borrowing a cliché approach, it is worth noting that the concise Oxford English Dictionary excludes the term andragogy from its listings. Yet, the related term adult education is listed with references to continuing education, e-learning, and community college. This exclusion of andragogy from the dictionary exposes the ambiguity of terms referring to adult education, as well as the variety of relevant philosophies. When breaking the word into its phenomenological parts, we see that andra translates to man, which is also problematic. A more inclusive term is trilogogy, which addresses all people. While it may seem surprising now, andragogy, was historically the original focus of all education, with pedagogy being a relatively new concept. Dating back to Plato in ancient Greece, adult education was synonymous with education, with no delineation by age groups. While there is dispute over the fine points of adult education versus andragogy, the term andragogy is commonly adopted when discussing the education of adults. Over time, apprenticeship developed as a form of adult education, as did correspondence schooling and In 1830s, Alexander Kopp published a book in Germany which set into motion a more formal consideration of the concept, with the focus being social reform. Tragically, this movement was abused for political purposes within the work camp movement, but after World War II, the original intent was restored. Authors Rosenstock Hussey, Lindemann, Buber, and Picht were influential European proponents. The Swiss Hanselmann popularized self-education, and Pogler lent scientific credence to the field of andragogy. The need for social diplomacy through an educated populace brought education to the common people. During the 1950s, then Yugoslavia's University of Belgrade offered adult education as an area of study, and 20 years later, the concept reached Britain and then the United States. The American Malcolm Knowles then authored the text, The Modern Practice of Adult Education, Andragogy versus Pedagogy, and this raised the term andragogy to the prominence which remains today. Adult education continues to gain attention as social equity and access relate to social justice and opportunity. As Knowles stated in 1980, adults of the 20th century had experienced 4 times the social changes as previous generations. So, we may experience a greater number of shifts in social change during the 21st century, which makes a strong case for expanding adult education programs. Social movements, protests, public health updates, and political developments are continually discussed through journalism and social media platforms, increasing the spread of mis- and disinformation. Therefore, well-funded public education for adult learners should be on every librarian's wish list. Knowles remains the most renowned advocate for adult education, especially in North America, although many others were and are prominent in Europe. Knowles considered adult learners, to be independent and self-directed, utilizing background experiences and relating learning to their community status and roles. They are also ready to apply new knowledge immediately and in practical ways. Knowles also proposed that students who regard themselves as adults and who adopt the roles of adulthood may be ready for adult teaching methods despite their youth. Of course, there are variables within the discipline of andragogy. However, those involved still appreciate the spotlight shown upon this growing interest in the empirical study of adult education and its emphasis on life-wide learning, which encompasses both formal and informal learning experiences. The traits of adult learners include several elements. Adults tend to be self-motivated with specific goals in mind. They are more patient and willing to put in the time and effort necessary to reach their goals. Organization of time, money, appointments, resources, personal lives, and learning materials comes more easily to mature students as well. Mature students' outside lives are also important considerations. Adults operate under many restraints of childcare and work schedules, as well as challenges with finances, time, meals, and energy. These test their resolve to complete their programs of study, so instructor flexibility allows students to choose how and when to complete assignments. Supporting this concept is Knowles' philosophy that the focus of adult education must include the student as an active participant. Acknowledging adults' desires to develop skills to a high degree, to expand their learning, and to deepen their self-awareness, Knowles encouraged adults taking active roles during assignments and research sessions. Librarians can also address adults' needs for respect and autonomy by providing resources and guidance while still enabling personal choice. According to Knowles, there are 6 elements inherent to educating adults: personal experience, self-directedness, a learner's curiosity and need to know, their readiness to learn, personal orientation toward learning, and intrinsic motivation. Most of these elements contrast with the educational needs and traits of adolescent learners who have limited experience. The discipline required for self-directed learning develops throughout adolescence, as do their organizational skills and motivation for long-term goals. Traditional aged college students may lack many of these skills, which are necessary for academic success. Conversely, however, mature students possess strong advantages of physical and cognitive maturity to manage a university setting. As traditional students grow from freshmen to seniors, however, they become more like their adult counterparts. These information literacy instruction approaches are especially suited to mature learners. They acknowledge students' needs for pragmatism and personal buy-in while still giving young adults what they need to move forward in their skills. Information literacy self-assessments can be valuable tools for mature students. Because they are more self-aware than their younger counterparts, young adults take interest in metacognition, and they will practice skills they discover are lacking. Offering information literacy self-assessments at the start of a class or a course may encourage students to improve their skills on their own, especially if they can reassess their skills at the end of class or term. Librarians who embed themselves into senior or graduate coursework will also significantly impact mature students' learning. Students recognize librarians' expertise when they are completing important research projects, and the practicality of directly applying their information literacy skills will reinforce this. It is also worth noting that community colleges cater to adult learners, and so community college librarians remain at the forefront of online learning techniques. All academic librarians may follow community college models to bolster their embeddedness within online courses, especially as the COVID-19 situation persists. Office hours, orientation sessions, and recorded tutorials can be offered online to enable the facilitating role of librarians. Tutorials may be posted within LibGuides and on Canvas for ease of viewing, allowing a flipped experience for students with very hectic lives. Now let's pull it all together. So we will blend information literacy instruction techniques suiting both adolescents and young adults. Collaborating with faculty, will support our reaching more students, and generally faculty view information literacy as important. Access to and retrieval of information and thinking critically about information and sources are considered to be very necessary skills. Embedding our instruction into courses and course platforms will encourage students to request research help from librarians rather than only the course faculty member. With their growing metacognition, young adults will benefit from using self-assessments because they enable college students to assess their personal development through student ownership of learning and goal building for immediate application. Information literacy self-assessments also assist adolescents in their taking responsibility for their own learning. They assist mature students in identifying personal weak points and resolving them for greater efficiency. Providing resources in both print and digital formats will also serve students well. According to the Academic Reading Format International Study, more than 78% of college students interviewed worldwide prefer to learn from print materials rather than from digital, citing better focus and retention of material. Teaching students to use tools for annotating, highlighting, and writing notes in online texts will also provide scaffolding for young students and improve the efficiency for mature students. Clear organization of worksheets, tutorials, and handouts will benefit everyone, as do lists, pathways, and tips for research. These provide the structure and guidance needed by younger students while granting mature students the autonomy to work independently. Actively monitoring student progress during class maintains their attention and ensures that less mature students get the help they avoid requesting. This also enables librarians to build relationships with students who need our expertise and are looking for quality help to immediately apply to their pending projects, relieving their anxiety. Taking an account of individual work also counters the Dunning-Kruger effect, ensuring that overconfident students still learn the technological processes they need for research. Stating the purpose of research, critical thinking, and information literacy practices will satisfy all students that they are using their time well. Allowing personal choice of topics, resources, and end products will appeal to both adolescents and young adults by encouraging their buy-in, curiosity, and usefulness in learning. Finally, relate to students that their research is a creative process with many choices and potential outcomes, as well as a healthy measure of creativity on their part. Emerging young adults will perform their best when dealing with issues that are personally valuable and credible. As instruction services librarians, we teach emerging young adult students to access and utilize information resources, which are available while they remain affiliated with our campus. However, we must also support their critical thinking skills and research processes so they will remain empowered throughout their futures. By understanding the cognitive development that traditional college students experience as they transition from adolescence to adulthood, Faculty librarians may provide flexible, effective instruction through meaningful experiences, assisting students as they grow into independent, organized, critical thinkers who will be prepared to maneuver smoothly through a complex information landscape. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Does anybody have any questions? Well, not so far. We can just wait a couple minutes, but
I have a question.
There we go. Go.
I really, really enjoy this topic, and throughout I kept thinking to myself, this is exactly my research field. I'm wondering, Catherine, have you been able to apply these techniques in your instruction? And if so, what was your experience like with the implementation?
I do employ most of these techniques, maybe not all within one class, but throughout my instruction sessions and the different courses that I'm involved in. And when, for example, I always think of things like having very clear directions and sections within worksheets and addressing each section. And students, they may initially feel overwhelmed, but if they know they're just going to look at this one part of something, then they're much more willing to jump into it because it's brief and it's focused. But one of the main things that I see with adolescent students and also for the young adult students is they need to have a lot of personal buy-in. That affective correspondent is, or component, I'm sorry, is absolutely essential because they have a tendency to think, well, I know what I'm doing. I use tech all the time. I don't need to listen or participate. But if they have that buy-in and they use their phones, which they are so excited to be able to use their phones and research, or more people are bringing laptops to classes on our campus, then they're already comfortable, and that makes such a huge difference.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Anyone else? Let me see. Yeah. Anyone else? Sure. Come on. Just speak away and ask away. It'll be just fine. You should be able to undo your mic and ask away. And if not, we can say thank you very, very much. And this is the end of our conferences on Fridays. We want to thank everybody for coming, and it has just been absolutely fantastic to have all of you participate and be here for us. We are glad to have shared all of this with you, and we'll see you next time, huh? Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you.
Catherine. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And do we have your information up somewhere in case someone, because this was a lot to take in, so they might have to think on this before they ask you a question. So
yes, let me bring up.
Info.
There's my info. If it comes up here. Yep. There. Yep.
Thank you. All right. Fantastic. And thank you everyone for being around, and thank you to the program committee. You guys are the absolute best. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for everything. And have a great rest of the summer, and have a good semester, everybody. Be safe and wear your mask. Let me throw that mama thing in there. All right. Bye, all.
Bye-bye.